Just get started and wait for people to trickle in. Thank you all for being here. This is not the slides I need. Good thing not everyone's in here. All right, key the elevator music. All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Very excited to have you here for our second ever Cybersecurity Expo. Thank you very much to the corporate partners for being here, as well as our startups. They're still outside trying to sell. They'll be in here soon. Thank you guys very much for being here. We would not be here without you. A few things I want to cover before we get started. Basically three things. One, please use the Brella app to schedule meetings with any startups that you would like to meet with. There's tables outside for you to meet with them. Two, use the Lineuper app, a lot of applications, to vote as on your favorite startup. So at the end of the day, we give an award to the favorite startup of ours, or of yours, and we need you to vote. So the third thing is vote. Plug and play may be a new thing to some of you, so I just wanted to give a quick recap of what we do, who we are. We're essentially three things. We're a corporate innovation platform, a VC firm, and a startup accelerator. We work with over 250 enterprise organizations around the globe, and for each vertical that we operate in, which is 14 different verticals, we source on average or speak with up to 1,000 startups per year. Since launching in February of this year, we've seen some pretty great growth. We've accelerated over 30 cybersecurity startups, which has led to 90+ POCs with partners that are actually paying for cybersecurity, as well as other plug-and-play partners themselves. We've made over 10 investments in the space, and we have now 6 partners. We're growing our global footprint. So 8 satellite locations. We're going to have a concrete location in Atlanta in 2019. And New York, we have a small satellite office there as well. In addition to US Bank, RSM, Deloitte, and Bremer Bank, those have been our partners for close to a year now. We're very excited to announce MS&AD and NTT Communications as our 2 newest partners, both of them coming from Japan. Tom Komuro is here from NTT. If you have any questions as to why he partnered with us, go ask him. He's all ears. He's got all the answers. In addition to growing the corporate partner network, we're also working on growing our ecosystem of mentors and advisors. So in addition to making introductions to corporate partners of ours, we also introduce startups to VCs, universities, and some thought leaders in the cybersecurity space. Here's a quick snapshot of our current cybersecurity portfolio. Our 2 most recent investments were Resec and ZecOps. Resec is actually a batch 2 company who will be presenting later today, and ZecOps was actually a batch 1 company who will not be presenting today. Before we introduce our keynote, Justin Berman, the CISO at Zenefits, I'd like to give out our Corporate Innovation Award. This is an award we give to our corporate partner that has been extremely engaged in the program, done a ton of deal flows, and been just fantastic friends to the program. And so with that, we are very, no, there's no slide for it. Here it is. We are very excited to award US Bank as our Corporate Innovation winners. So guys, please come up here. We have Leon and David from US Bank. Okay, so with that, we're now introducing Justin Berman, the CISO of Zenefits, as our keynote. Prior to being appointed CISO at Zenefits in August of 2017, Justin started, founded, and led Flatiron Health, as well as worked in a few cybersecurity. Okay, he'll correct me. But anyway, without further ado, please put your hands together for Justin Berman.
He's giving me a little too much credit. I did not start Flatiron Health. I was the first security person. I built the team from scratch. I was the CISO at Flatiron too. Before that, actually, I led security architecture at a hedge fund. You might have heard of it. It's called Bridgewater Associates, biggest assets under management of any hedge fund on the planet. And before that, I built several business lines at an application security consultancy called Aspect Security. They got bought by EY. My whole career so far has been all about how to create value inside companies and not just from a stop-loss perspective in security. And part of what I realized when Plug and Play asked me to come here and talk about innovation is that the temptation is immediately to talk about technology or process or policy or changes in maybe regulation. But that's not what I want to talk about today. What I actually want to talk about is the innovation that security teams need to have with their business relationship. So what do I actually mean by that? Well, let's maybe start in the past and then move forward. So how many people here have heard the phrase security is a stop-loss function or security is a back-office function? Probably a lot of you. That creates a relevance issue for us. And what I mean by a relevance issue for us is that no matter what we do, no matter how much work we put in, and no matter how much we care, our CEO eventually will have issues that matter significantly more to him. Our board, our executive teams will always care more about other things, often related to how much money are we making, how do we make more, how do we make the shareholders more money. If you're public or if you're private, you're trying to hit certain valuation numbers because ultimately you want to go public or you want to get bought for a large amount of money. So the immediate, thinking about what I imagine a lot of the security people in the audience might be thinking, but what about all the breaches, right? Like, Facebook just lost 30 or 50 million records and all kinds of downstream ID. Equifax cost a CISO and a CIO and a CEO their jobs, as well as $6 billion in market cap. But I would tell you that all of those things end up being blips on the radar, ultimately. It is a thing that happens, an event that drives attention for a period of time and no more. And then the second thought that I always hear security people fall back on is well, but what about regulations, right? Everybody and their mother is currently talking about GDPR. I'm sure back in May you got about 30,000 emails from about 20,000 different companies telling you that, hey, just so you know, we're GDPR compliant and this is what you have to agree to for us to continue to provide you services. Again, all of these things are noise to most organizations, especially internally. They are a way for them to prevent a problem. Security is a way for them to prevent a problem. It's not a way for them to make more money. It's not a way for them to be a more successful business. So why is that the case, right? I think that's the case because of the way most security teams have to run or have been taught to run or have been traditionally run within organizations. So first, there's a tendency towards pure risk minimization. What do I mean by risk minimization? I mean, you will approach the problems in security as being the sole goal of how do I make sure that all risk at the company is as low as possible. You're not thinking about what risks are appropriate to take, but rather just how do I make it all go away. Second, coming from a technology background myself, I understand the tendency of security teams to want to focus on technology, to want to focus on the interesting or what the engineers and the analysts in those teams perceive as interesting problems to the exclusion of the process problem or the policy problem. And in fact, when we step back and look, often process problems and accidents in worker staff are going to be a far more likely reason for you to accidentally drop data on the internet than some bad person trying to break into your systems and steal things. Third, Security teams fail to think about business context. I have met way too many security teams who only understand adversaries or who only understand the technical flaws within systems and the process problems versus some ideal standard. Every business is ultimately a very unique apparatus that is requiring, or that you need to partner with, not just glom onto or sit next to. All of those things lead you to be seen as a technology manager or a problem manager and not an actual partner to the business leadership. And last, and this is what I want to spend the most of this conversation with you guys about, is like, we don't generate, oftentimes, security teams don't generate objectively measurable value for the business. So like, that's a great, like, sure, this is the way we break things, this is how we like do it wrong, but what do I think? What do I want, right? Well, I said we have a relevance problem before. Well, I want to be hyper-relevant to the business. I want the CEO to be asking me to meet with him every week or every other week, not because he's worried about a breach, but because he's worried about how we can make more money and knows that I am on the same page as him about that being the goal. So when I think about what it means to be hyper-relevant as a security team, I think about 3 goals. First is that be safe enough goal. How does that differ from being a risk minimization function? Second, I want to build competitive advantage for my company. And then third, I want to delight customers with security. And I know the word delight, adjacent to the word or near the word security, doesn't often generate positive ideology, but like, I want you guys to bear with me while I talk you through what that means to me. So let's talk about the be safe enough thing. So these statements, the idea that we want to help the company execute safely enough, and the idea that we want to stop bad people, are probably the most familiar to the most executives here, the most security people here, et cetera. This is the closest thing in my world to the bread and butter of what every security team at every company does. The difference between the phrase, I want to help my company execute at speed safely enough, is the phrase safely enough and help. I am not a no factory, and I don't think many security teams anymore think they can operate like one. But if I want to be really, really relevant to the company's culture, then I'm looking for not just where can't we take a risk, but where can we take a risk, or where can I minimize risk in one place so that we can take a larger one elsewhere. I ultimately want to help the company make the bets that are going to let them leapfrog competition, or going to let them make an outsized impact in the world. And so sometimes that means taking a specific technology risk, or taking a specific process risk, or even taking a regulatory risk sometimes for a limited period of time or for a constrained amount. That doesn't mean we take every risk. That doesn't mean we let the business do anything they want or that we don't advise them otherwise. But it does mean that we put ourselves in context. Oh man, like, if we don't take this risk, sales will not make numbers. If sales doesn't make numbers, there's a heck of a lot more negative implications on the company than like the potential impact of a one-time like exposure often. That's like an example of the thinking. It's not necessarily the only idea I want to hit here, but like the point I would make is, man, it is really easy to just go, we got to exterminate all risk, and it is so much more of the partnership that's going to get you pulled into conversation. If you're sitting there going like, well, we can probably take this one, we shouldn't take this one. That practicality by itself will bring you into conversations all over your company in a way that trying to be a risk minimizer won't. Understanding that we're trying to stop bad people from doing bad things seems obvious, right? Like, of course, the security team's trying to stop bad people from doing bad things. The corollary, or the idea that goes along with this that security teams lose, is we are also trying to empower good people to keep doing their job effectively. So that means the controls, whether technical or process or policy or whatever that we put into place, cannot impede the flow of business day to day. It can't be the case that you look at the world and say, man, I got to stop this one bad actor in this one place, and thus I'm going to slow down all of this business. If you want to think about it in terms of real numbers associated with that, let's say you cost your company an hour, and your company has 3,000 workers. That's literally a salary to someone in that company that's getting paid for them to do no work, because it's about 2,100 man hours or person hours a year. So if you slow the company down by an hour, you've literally cost the company a person's job. So when you think about what you're going to put into place, and I'm sure a lot of people here in larger organizations are thinking like, this is why we have change management, but you got to go beyond the idea of like the change that I make may temporarily have a problem to how can I empower the business to be safe quickly or smoothly or seamlessly. So build competitive advantage. This gets into like what I find fun as a CISO. So when we think about competitive advantage in an organization, when we think about, especially because I come from a very B2B focused background, the world, like the opportunity space that we have to deal with our customers is vastly different than what a lot of B2C companies have. And when you're dealing with the individual end consumer, you're often not dealing with a educated end consumer that understands how to demand security or privacy capabilities from your organization. On the flip side, when you deal with companies, whether at the SMB size or the mid-market size or the large enterprise, you're going to have a range of people that understand a range of different things about security, that understand a range of different things about what they think they need for their business and how they apply those requirements. So, for me, what I think about is how do I make sure my companies are the secure X, right? Like, Zenefits is a HR software company. We're a payroll company. We help companies, manage the benefits challenges they have within their organizations. That's a lot. And how do I make sure that our brand is associated with being the most secure? And how do I use the fact that that brand image is not or there's no dominant player in my space at our size to leverage that and make it a competitive moat, right? Like if we become the default secure player, then how do I make sure that I can actually capitalize on it? Well, I build battle cards for sales. Like I sit with my marketing team. We build, it's everything from sitting down and talking in places like this to writing blogs for the organization to consulting with clients. But the point is the competitive advantage you build is really ultimately a method for you to force your competition, your opponents in the industry to invest, to catch up with you. And you will be able to, provided you continue your investment and you convince your company to continue their investment, always stay ahead of them. Because at the same time as you've already made the investment into security, they have to play catch up. And while they're playing catch up, you're innovating. And while they finally get to the mark that you're ahead both in terms of regular features as well as security features, because oftentimes companies that don't recognize that this is a market-leading opportunity will never invest the amount of resources they need into a security function, especially into a security engineering function, to be able to build something that actually matters to clients. Second idea here that has been an incredibly valuable thing for me at Zenefits and was at Flatiron as well is like, often we have an opportunity to teach our clients something. Like the experience of being asked questions about security, or when like a big enterprise, like I'll tell you every time a bank comes to us, they always have like a questionnaire they want us to fill out, and we fill out that questionnaire and they take it away, and largely that's the end of that conversation. Occasionally it gets into a deeper conversation where they want to ask us some follow-up questions about why we do or don't do something or how we do something. But the opportunity we actually have is to start with a much different conversation. Instead of waiting for our clients to come to us and say like, well, give us your certification report, give us your ISO 27001, or like, here's a Cloud Security Alliance questionnaire, please fill this out. The opportunity we have is to go to them. During the sale, during the prospecting, during the whole process. Don't get me wrong, security is not the thing that's selling, right? Like, they're coming to us because they want to buy our features as an organization. But we have the opportunity to go to them during that process and teach them about what it means to buy a safe enough provider in that vertical. Hey, this is how we've thought about this. This is all the things that we think are at risk here. This is how we think you having a secure enough provider, in our case for HR software, benefits your business or protects your business. Those ideas are the kinds of things that are going to make us more successful through time, that are going to make us more powerful as an organization, because it gives us the opportunity to change the way market forces buy software in our space. And there's going to be someone in your vertical that's going to make this leap. If it's you, great, then that gets back to the advantage. That's a moat that you have built for your company. And if it's not you, then you're going to figure out how to deal with it because your marketing team is going to come to you and say like, well, actually, for most people, their marketing teams are probably just going to go write something that's inaccurate about security, about your company. But in an ideal world, your marketing team would come to you and say like, well, we got to do this. Like, we're losing deals. So then the last idea is this delight customers with security. So although they may not always have the greatest ideas, Uber has an amazing idea with regards to measuring customer satisfaction with their product. So when you take a ride with Uber, you get to rate a driver 1 to 5 stars, right? Normal idea. The problem that Uber found is that 1 star is everything below this was okay, and 5 stars is this was fine, right? Like, how many of you give 4 stars, or 3 stars, or 2 stars? It's just not, it's like not common. So they wanted to differentiate the drivers that were truly excellent, and they couldn't do that with 5-star reviews. So what they did is they give you, the rider, the occasional ability to give a 6th star. When you give a 5th star, sometimes they say like, hey, was this actually an exceptional ride? Would you give this driver a 6th star if you could? That idea is what I mean when I say I want to delight a customer. I want them to have an unexpectedly great experience that involves security and brings them back to our platform in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise. This is the idea of making our platform sticky for our clients through security measures or building features, ideally getting to the point where you're like the Salesforces of the world and you're building SKUs that actually matter to clients around security. But at least making sure that clients have a great reason to stay with you for a long time. So that all sounds really great, right? Like that was a bunch of words. It's a bunch of ideas that maybe you think you can implement or maybe you can't. But for me, I care about accountability and how do I measure these things. So what I think about is really like, how do I actually measure these ideas being put into practice? And these are actual things that we, at Zenefits and in general, what I carry through to every organization would assert in like, this is part of my yearly objectives, that we don't lose any deal ever due to security concerns of the customer. There's a bunch of, by the way, there's a bunch of objectives that sit way outside this around the keep people safe, but right now I'm talking about the competitive advantage and the deal flow ideas. But so like, the first one is hard, because sometimes you're going to get a customer who's way more upmarket of you, and you're not going to have built the problem space. But that's not the point of these metrics. Like, I think a lot of people may get caught up in the idea that like we have to hit the exact number, and obviously I want to hit the exact number because I never want to lose a deal due to security. But I'm also never going to lie to a customer that asks me a question. And I'm not incentivized by my leadership to lie. So there's like it's an important distinction that's worth making here. And what that does, or what that goal does for us, is it incents me and incents other people in the organization to pay attention to customer feedback about security. Like, oh, we lost, like maybe we lost a deal because we're missing some integration with some security partner, or we don't have some particular like bring your own key, for example, feature that the customer might want. Like, those things inform our product teams in ways that they don't at lots of organizations, because it is a metric that we're actually measuring and is visible at the executive level. So, second one is all about client security questions answered, self-serve by sales. So like, sorry, it's a bunch of words, but what I'm actually trying to get across is the idea that the sales team should never be impeded by the fact that a customer asks questions. In fact, I would go farther and say like the better metric here is that like the sales team can not only answer the questions that the customer throws at them, but that the sales team leaves the customer feeling like more confident than they came in, or even that the sales team is empowered and we've taught the sales team enough so that they can teach the customer something about the problem space, the security problem space, or the privacy problem space that we exist in and what they should be thinking about. So for me, the simplest way to measure that is the fact that sales, like they always are able to answer the questions for the client themselves. And when they're not, we improve things like FAQs, or we build additional sales battle cards, or whatever we need to do in order to drive sales to the point where they have the ability to respond to the customer effectively. And the last one is the one that I think has been the most controversial, but also one of the most impactful things that's really driven attention from my leadership team, from my peer executives at Zenefits. Like, we measure what the reasons we win deals are, right? Like, I think anybody here that's in the B2B space is measuring like kind of the reasons you win and the reasons you lose, because you want to retrospect on that. So we're measuring now whether security is in those reasons. And for every time security sits in the top 10 with a scaling factor based on where in the top 10 it sits, we count some part of that ARR towards security. That's like a sea change for a lot of people thinking about security, because that means that I can tie ARR directly back to our activity and our investment in security, which makes it look a lot more like, wow, we are driving the business goals, and a lot less like, man, these guys cost money, I wish we didn't have to pay that. So those are really like the core. These are, again, like only a set of the metrics that you could use. There's 100 other metrics that I can imagine personally. There's a ton of metrics totally uncovered here about trying to measure whether your team actually does a good job or anything, but that's not the point of what I'm trying to get across. What I'm trying to get across is that like we have to innovate the way we as security people interact with the business. I've heard a lot of CISOs complain about the fact that they're not invited to the executive table. Like, I've heard a lot of CSOs say like, man, I'm frustrated that like I can't get enough time with my CEO, or that the board doesn't care, or that like the head of marketing doesn't care about what we do. The answer here, I would say, is very similar to the answer that happened probably a decade ago when CIOs were complaining about the exact same thing. Make yourself business relevant, or recognize that you probably don't actually belong at the head of, or at the same table as the people that are trying to make the decisions that make the business overall successful. That's what I have to say, but I'm welcome. I would welcome if anybody wants to tear my ideas apart. It doesn't hurt my feelings slightly. I'll repeat it for you.
Sure, thanks. Is your responsibility at Zenefits crossing both the application security and the enterprise security? And if so, is that the model that you'd recommend?
Okay. So the question was, does my responsibility at Zenefits cross both application security and enterprise security? And is that the model I would recommend? Sorry, quick follow-up question. Do you mean, is that the model of a security leader that I would recommend? Or is this model what I would recommend for someone who has those responsibilities? Got it. So he's asking, like, do I recommend security leaders have responsibility across all things, or just, or maybe split responsibilities between kind of enterprise versus application or product security? So in my case, I'm probably biased because I came up through the application or the product security space, and I have a lot of experience with that. So my inclination is to say yes, because I honestly feel like that space is, for most companies, both less targeted and more difficult to solve. As in, bad guys spend less time on your products than they do on trying to pop your enterprise software. Like this is why phishing is so popular. This is why drive-by downloading is a popular delivery mechanism, et cetera. But the problems that you solve on the ProdSec side or on the AppSec side are honestly like harder to scale and more difficult in many cases, and so I have no problem flexing across them. I think it's probably going to vary in some ways based on the structure of your overall organization. If you have a CIO and a CTO and they have no conversation, and you're like at some below peer level under one of them, and then you have to affect both of them, it's probably painful for you at best to try and affect, especially if you have a highly political organization. I tend to, by preference, work in organizations in the I've worked in organizations as small as 60 and upwards of 3,000, and in those cases, I'd say yes, it makes more sense to have a single security leadership function that actually spans those things. Like, I have a director who handles, one side of that, and a director that handles the other side, and they align super closely to both. Another thing to think about in response to his question is like we're starting to see a trend of CIOs reporting into CISOs. Like obviously not like I see US Bank here and BNP Paribas and whatnot. I'm sure you guys do not have that situation because the CIO is a massive function at those kind of organizations. But in smaller organizations, we're starting to see the CIO start to report into the CISO, or that they become a director of information technology or similar. And for me, like, I've found that, like, I have IT reporting through me at my current organization, and it's actually made a massive difference in how I can affect the enterprise security problem, as well as gives me a lot of opportunity to understand the, call it enterprise risk level problem. I pay attention to a lot of availability concerns and a lot of, and I don't just mean product availability concerns, I mean internal use availability concerns. I pay attention to a lot of like, are people moving too slowly? How can we empower the organization and sales and marketing and operations and everything else? And the IT lens of that gives me that constant refocusing. That you feel like that picked up? Awesome. Thank you guys so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Justin. Let's give him another round of applause. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Coming up, we have about 6 startups pitching, and leading off is Tal Yatsev with Resec Technologies. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you. I am Tal, and I'm the chairman of Resec Technologies. Resec provides organizations with the ultimate protection from file-based malware threats, both known and, more importantly, unknown threats, so zero-day attacks. We do this through patented content disarm and reconstruction technology known as CDR. I'm assuming many of you would agree this is a pretty good description of a day in the life of the Chief Information Security Officer. Malware is continuing to grow rapidly, with more than 50% of the attacks coming from documents. There are dozens of existing solutions used by most organizations, yet everyone is still getting breached. Resec has come up with a completely new solution to this very old problem. We focus on complete prevention and not on detection. Here's how we do it. We treat every file as a threat. Therefore, we always keep the original file outside of the organization's network. We then take that file and we study it. Its structure, its core bits and bytes, every little piece, every little component, and in real time, we put together a replica. A perfect, fully functional replica of the original document, which we put together from scratch, which is why we can guarantee that it is threat-free. Here's another example, which will work better technologically. We have a PDF approaching the organization's perimeter. We would never let it in. We then create the replica I described. It will look the same, it will feel the same colors, the same fonts. If it was in Excel, the same formulas, and this would apply to dozens of additional file types. This is what we send over to the end user. Threat-free, the end user cannot tell the difference. This is a game-changing solution. We offer that juggling CISO, complete prevention, minimal impact to BAU, and a solution that is easy to deploy and to maintain and to integrate with existing cyber solutions. Our customers are those exact same CISOs, and they tell us that with Resec, they get a good night's sleep. Not that common in the cyberspace. We're a proven solution. We've been in the market for 4 years. Our technology's been awarded 2 patents, and another one is pending. We hold the NISA certificate, the National Information Security Authority of Israel. It's the highest standard in the country. Most importantly, we proudly protect 40 enterprise customers, literally a case study from every industry. Here are some examples. On the left-hand side, you can see military and defense organizations. These are some of the most sensitive organizations in Israel, perhaps the world, including the National CERT. We protect Bank Hapoalim, the largest retail bank, Central Bank of Israel, Deloitte, who are here with us today, government offices, health providers. You'll see El Al over there, the national airline, Bezeq, the largest telco, oil and gas companies, and many, many more. In 2018, we've shifted our focus into expanding out of Israel. We've established key relationships with distributors, resellers, and integrators from all over the world, including Tech Data here in the US, and we've made our first big sale abroad to a UK-based oil and gas company. This has all led to significant growth in 2018. In Q1 alone, we've exceeded all of 2017 revenues. We've tripled our average deal size, and we've completed successful POCs with large strategic partners from all over the world. Our next steps are to continue expediting this growth. I would love to have a conversation with anyone here and see how we can help your organization achieve the same results we have done with our other clients. Lastly, we've just completed a Seed Plus fundraising round. For the investors in the room, there's room for additional investors. If you're interested, I'll be more than happy to have a conversation after the session. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Tal. All right, up next, we have David Ooze from Trillium. Let's give him a round of applause. Hey, David.
Thanks, man.
Green forward, red back.
Green forward. Hello, everyone. My name is David. I'm the founder and CEO of Trillium Secure. We're a Japanese company originally. This is our 5th year, and we transitioned to a U.S. C Corp headquartered in Sunnyvale, headquartered at Plug and Play here in California. We provide trusted mobility platform services. What that means is we make connected cars, fleets, and autonomous vehicles safe, and the data that's derived from those vehicles private and confidential. Our team is a seasoned group of past Fortune 500 leadership. Our chairman has taken 8 companies public, the first of which, KDDI, now an $85 billion telecom in Japan. Myself, I have been in high tech for 25 years, and before that I was a management consultant with Deloitte & Touche. You can see here the companies listed, the logos you see. The leaders in cybersecurity in this world are where we've derived our management team. We're a team of over 70 today. We're post-Series A, and we're currently soliciting our Series B round. Vehicle data has immense value. McKinsey, Bain, and others have calculated this to be worth $1.5 trillion by 2030. Today, it's a $30 billion market. That's a CAGR of 32%. The problem, all connected cars, that's trucks, that's buses, that's ships, and the cars that you drive can be hacked. If it has any external connectivity, including tire pressure sensors with Bluetooth, your car can be hacked. The strongest cars we've seen that we hack are Teslas. We have 4 in a fleet, and we hack them daily. I've seen them hacked in 3 minutes. So the solution, 10 layers of cybersecurity to protect the assets that keep our society in motion. Protect the messaging at the start, data as the endpoint. The last line of defense is the data itself. We protect the payload, we protect the firewall around the vehicle, or we create a fire around the vehicle, we protect the data while it's in transit, we protect it while it's at rest, and according to GDPR compliance, we anonymize and we retire that data. A total platform with multiple user interfaces for our customers and partners, fleet owners, insurers, OEMs, and mobile operators are all very interested in this business for different reasons. I won't go into them today, but if you fit into any of these categories, I have a business model that we consider a self-driving business model. One that makes or takes a $300 million cost and creates a $300 million profit generator for our partners on an annual basis. The business model isn't simple, but it exists today. Fleet owners are the source of the money. They spend between $30 and $70 a month to protect their assets, monitor their assets, train their drivers, and track every aspect of their fleet. They pay the money today. We're offering fleet owners an opportunity to get much more value from what they spend today and to do it for the first time in a cyber-secure fashion. Our partners, the fleet owners, the insurance carriers, those who have the opportunity to monetize this crisis, which is cybersecurity and the risk to the transportation infrastructure. We share revenue with the OEM. We share revenue with the service partner. That's why we call it a self-driving model. Everybody wins. These are our partners today on top. Those are our investors on the bottom. Our investors are the largest financial firms, the largest fleet owners in Europe, the largest fleet owners in Asia, and soon to be the largest fleet owners in the Americas. Our investors are our major customers. So it's a big business. It's growing very fast. It's what investors want to invest in, and that's why I've invested the past 7 years of my life, and I intend to invest the next 7 in a business model that leads to the SaaS outcomes that everybody wants to see, but this is a long tail, and this long tail business model, the tail gets fatter over time. Try and find another opportunity like that. So thank you. Thank you for your time. If you're interested in investing in a future SaaS business that has every potential that people hope for from SaaS businesses, please speak with Trillium, because we are a juggernaut.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. Okay. Well, up next, we have Carl Neurup from Cog Systems. Let's give him a round of applause.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Here's your clicker.
There's my clicker. Press to go forward. Hi, my name is Carl Neurup. I'm with Cog Systems. We're an Australia-based company out of Sydney. As some of you might recognize, it's now time for me to leave and spend the next 6 months down under. Okay? What do? We secure IoT. Do I really need to show you this slide? No. Everyone knows it's coming. You all have Alexa, Google Hub. I don't know, pick the device. Your door lock, your Roomba, etc. All of these devices are rich in data, but they're not protected. I was sitting with somebody who makes a robot dog, okay? And people buy it, okay? And they wanted to talk to us because our software can actually improve their BOM cost. In other words, we are business relevant. And I said, well, about security, he goes, it's not that big a deal. Now, the truth is, he still gets it. It's like fries, okay? He bought the hamburger, we still send him fries. How do we do it? Well, there's only one thing I want you to remember today. Everything in the IoT world is built on a monolithic stack. That's right. If one of you in the room has Ebola, that would be tragic. But if one of you in the room has Ebola, the odds of someone else in the room getting Ebola is high. But if you did it this way, right? Because we're all in the same room. But if you did it this way, where you modularized the device, in other words, we weren't all sitting in the same room, we were all on a conference call. And I'd look over at my good friends at Bremer, and I'd say, man, you sound terrible. He goes, yeah, I've got Ebola. They're like, whew. Thank God we're on the conference call. Okay? And by the way, that's exactly what we do. When you modularize, you isolate. Yeah, did you guys ever think someone would use Ebola in a pitch? No. By the way, my team, I'm the CMO and the co-founder, my team, they can't believe I get away with it. But really, it's a laugh line. It works. I never thought Ebola would be, okay? So, only one thing I need you to remember. Monolithic, bad. Modular, good. And you don't need to believe me because I'm so good looking. You need to go ahead and just Google it, because we actually have a university who I didn't ask write a scientific paper proving it. This is how we do it, our D4 Secure platform. It's a whole suite of services. We use virtualization as a base layer. That leads to a set of design wins. Here are our target customers. By the way, you know this technology, because when I'm talking to VCs, I have to explain it in an easy way. So what VMware is to cloud computing, Cog is to IoT. You now have the secret. But hey, don't take my word for it. I do business with every major Western country. I can never talk about it. I did once, and I got in trouble for it, okay? I'm still allowed in the country, I'm just saying, okay? But we have a list of very, very good customers because we work very far down the stack. So at the end of the day, What I suggest to you is that you go modular. Don't wait. I'm an avid backpacker. And there's something that we all say in the backpacking world. The downs are always worse than the ups. I'd rather hump uphill to every full summit and go, oh God, not more, than walk downhill. Because when you walk downhill, your knees start screaming. If you don't invest in security up front, you're going to suffer the downs instead of enjoying the ups. So thank you very much for your time. I'm outside if you guys want to chat later. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Carl. That was quite enlightening and hilarious at the same time. Up next, we have David Trofer from Anchor ID. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hi, I'm David Trofer, and I'm the CEO of Anchor ID. Do you believe me? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. When somebody comes into your network, how do you know they are the person that they say they are? Right, so first, a little bit about our company. We're a seed-stage company. We've raised about $2 million. We're raising another $1.5 million. We have a full U.S. patent with another one pending, and we've got 4 POCs across 4 different industry sectors. Why do customers call us? What problems are we solving for them? This is a big one. When a customer loses control of their own account, they get mad at you, even though it's probably their fault because they reused their password on some other site, looking into Yahoo, and they got hacked, and that's how they lost control of their account. Cyber losses. $8 trillion will be lost due to cyber issues over the next 5 years. That is such a staggeringly large number that it only makes sense if you put it across next to something like the national debt. And the last thing anybody in this room wants is for their logo and their finances to be associated with that loss that we know is coming. And the third reason that customers call us is just good old-fashioned customer satisfaction. Every time you put a new password rule on your customers, make their passwords longer, more complex, your customer gets frustrated, that reflects on your brand. That's why we get called. In the real world, authentication is pretty straightforward. If you ask for more than one identification, you're probably going to figure out exactly who that person is. You know they are who they say they are. And in the digital world, the same thing is actually true. CISOs and chief information security officers know that if you just ask for another form, just one more form of ID, one more credential, you will solve a lot of those fraud problems, a lot of those account takeover problems. The issue is companies say, that's great, don't mandate it. Don't mandate it because we think it's too complex for our customers, and there's nothing in it for the customer. There's no incentive. Those 2 reasons expose almost every company to fraud, to account takeover, to terrible customer experiences. So that's why we've built a patent-protected platform that makes it easy to use multiple credentials every time your customer logs in, and then it does something miraculous. It simply says thank you, to add that extra layer of incentive to your customer to use it. So how does it work? The smartphone is the key to everything we do. All of our multi-factor authentication is just a series of screens that the user is walked through. And we can even take that to another level by offering randomized factors. So if there's a bad guy involved, they're not faced with the same credentials every single time. We change them up. Also, we can do real parent-child authentication. Literally, a parent can, in real time, authorize the activity of their child or an employee over a supervisor. Once you've logged in through the smartphone, you simply select with one tap the account that you're trying to open up, and your session starts. And then at the end, you get the gift. You get an ID coin. You get a point, right? And what can you do with those points as they accumulate over time? That's your reward. That's the incentive for the customer. Over time, those points accumulate, and customers can either just store them as stored value. They can trade them in for cash because it is a cryptocurrency. It can be converted to cash. It can also be traded. Maybe another level of your favorite game or whatever the case may be. But it can be traded, converted into cash, or just stored. So if you look at what we're doing, we are creating a scenario where customers come to your account, come to your website more often, and they're using better security every time they log in. And that's because we've combined all of these different levels of authentication and a reward system to give the customer something back. And driving it on a cryptocurrency is really just an obvious solution because it's a cross-platform scenario, and cryptocurrency, blockchain, makes it much easier to manage. So just a little bit about the space that we're in. We've created a very good niche around some other companies that are out there doing very, very well. Gigya was just sold for $350 million. SailPoint went public, is now a $2 billion valuation. Cisco just got Duo just got bought by Cisco for $2.4 billion. And Okta went public, and they're worth over $6 billion. And all of these IPOs and all these transactions happened within the last 18 months. And this is one of the hottest areas within cybersecurity. And by the way, we're still at our seed round with a value under $8 million. So we're here to finish our seed round, find more corporate partners, find more clients. And we want to emphasize that we've solved the problem of too hard by making it easy for the customer through the smartphone. We've solved the problem of incentive with our ID Coin product. So next time you're worried about angry customers who've lost control of their own accounts, you're worried about being a part of that huge fraud number, or you just want to improve your customer experience, don't keep doing the same thing, adding more and more security factors and more rules around a password. Simply give us a call. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Yeah, we can shake hands. We can shake hands. Okay, great. Up next, we have Stephen Chen from PFP Cyber. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. There you go. Good afternoon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of PFP Cyber. We provide quality, safety, and security based on AI and analog signal. We are in a dangerous world, and it's changing. The next frontier of cyber attack is memory attack. It started in 2013 when classified cyber weapons got leaked. Since then, we have seen mushroomed memory attack in different forms. And we look deep enough, so we're unique in this space. Cyber is a team sport, and we're unique in this area. The brands are facing increased challenges because the vulnerabilities of IoT devices and because of the volume. We need a scalable solutions. Here are the experts on memory attacks, former director of NSA, and they are telling you PFP potentially could help you solve your memory attack problems. How do we do it? We use analog signal. We do signal processing with AI. We can authenticate. We can detect, remediate, and prevent in milliseconds. This example tells you with high confidence, near zero error, in hundreds of milliseconds, we can detect. We focus on 3 areas: industrial, financial, and government. By protecting those devices with products like analytic, sensors, we have a roadmap to scale with chips. Initially, we provide IoT devices to protect legacy equipment. The next phase will provide firmware, which we use, licensed to IoT designers like a Fitbit, because on the ARM chip in Fitbit, there's a digitizer used to indicate the battery level. We use the same digitizer to tell you the integrity of the device. We have a roadmap to be in silicon in 12 months so we can further reduce the cost and scalability. Here are some use cases. So we help our customers protect their devices from cradle to grave. without monitoring network traffic. So we can tell you whether your device used counterfeit IC or used IC. And we can tell you whether it has malicious firmware implant or your product has been cloned, and plus many more. We have a demo outside showing Stuxnet on a Siemens PLC and how we detected air gap when it's in sleep mode. We have exemplifying customers, pretty much all the military and government agencies. And we have a $6 million DARPA Prime contract for advanced AI to look at analog signals. We have scalable partners, chip companies, ODMs. Particularly, we want to reach out, eventually reach to billions of devices by working with chip and ODM partners. Here are our team. I sold a cybersecurity company in 2006. We sold $300 million to US military and made Intel Centrino secure, so we scale with chips. We have people from offensive cyber for decades. VP of engineering outside is a former deputy chief of FBI cyber divisions. Our newcomer is a former engineer at Intel, will join and focus on data centers. He has invested $250,000 of his own money. Here's our board and advisory board. My chairman has put in $800,000 of his own money. And this is a group of people, mostly are investors, and they have done that before successfully. So I want to say, Gordon told me he lost a lot of sleep because he knew what we could do to others, and he was worried what others could do to us. So perhaps in the next few years, PAP can help all of us sleep better. We have raised $6 million. We're starting to raise our B round, and look forward to see you outside to see our demo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Pretty awesome you have a member of the Blue Man Group on your board. So up next, we have Ziv Cohen from Pagelint. So let's give him a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ziv Cohen. I'm the CEO of Pagelint. I am the CEO, by the way. And we specialize in protecting mobile payment transactions against fraud attacks. So everything is clearly going mobile. This is definitely not a secret. And with that, we also use our mobile devices to pay. We use tap and pay, tap and go, contactless. We scan QR codes. We transfer money to our friends and family using P2P apps. We shop online using m-commerce and e-commerce and so forth. And the annual transaction volume is going to reach $1 trillion, by the way, by the end of this year. Only that 65% of the fraud is already generated on mobile devices. And this is just the beginning of this new era, because we know that wherever there is money, there is fraud, and fraudsters are always following the channels that are easiest for them to cash out and move on to the next victim. Now, the market still relies mainly on legacy systems that generate very high false positive alerts. This is a big problem. And the false positive alerts negatively impact our user experience. I'll tell you that when I came here last week, I tried to rent a car. $80, my transaction was declined. This is crazy. 2018, getting to a point where our transactions are being declined even though it's really us. So the user experience is far from being frictionless and seamless, and at the same time, the operational cost is very high. What we did, in order to mitigate this situation, we actually designed and developed a solution which covers all the relevant aspects into one platform. So we're mapping very accurately and thoroughly all the characteristics of the devices. We are linking the devices to the person, and we're wrapping it up with all the behavioral around the usage of the person and the transaction analysis as well. And this is translated to various what we call intelligence sets that are looking at the biomarkers. How do we hold the device? What kind of pressure we put? How do we scroll? All that. Adding to that the app interaction so that if we all download and use the same payment or banking app, we behave differently within the application. I open the application, I log in, and I check my account balance. Maybe you go and transfer immediately, and afterwards you do so, and so forth. So the way that we behave within the application differs among different people. User data, which looks at the overall environment of the device, whether the device even reflects a real customer's device or fraudsters' devices. It all looks very differently. And of course, the transaction data. How do we transfer? Who do we transfer to? Where do we buy? Which merchants? What time? What is the amount? Which card? And so forth. And that's all done in a hybrid mode in order to avoid data and user privacy, which is a key point today. It's no longer, or we can no longer ignore the privacy of all the people, right? So you cannot collect everything and use it as you want. Now, the model is not working as a standalone one. It is actually linked to what we call the user journey. And we are not only focusing on the transaction, as it's done today, but we are starting to look at the risk the second that the app is downloaded and installed, so that we activate the relevant intelligence sets according to the stage of the user across the journey itself. So if the app is downloaded and installed, immediately 2 intelligence sets are triggered. When the user is going through the onboarding process or the registration, now all 4 are fully activated. When a new card, debit, credit, the bank account is linked to the application, all 5 are fully activated, all the way to ongoing transactions when all the engines are fully activated to assess the risk there. We managed to gain some significant traction in a relatively short time. We work with banks, with e-commerce companies, mobile wallets, of course, globally, that are growing very, very fast. Banks like Citi and others are looking to reduce fraud on Zelle. Companies like Ingenico are looking to increase the acceptance rate and the adoption and the conversion rate for their merchants and the banks they work with. And of course, also on the digital channel side, getting more customers on board and reducing the risk and the fraud losses. Actually, last week, we were also selected by CI, State of Connecticut, as one of the winners. And this means that we're just about to expand and open an office here in the US in order to be closer to the customers. My team and myself, we all bring immense knowledge and know-how and experience to the table with regard to cybersecurity and fraud from previous companies like RSA, Trusteer. I'm sure that some of you are using their solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ziv. So that concludes the first portion of the pitches. So we're going to have about a 20-minute break, be back in here by 2:35, and then we'll have the remaining 5 startups pitch. Before we leave, let's just give a round of applause to the first startups that pitched today. All right, thank you guys. So up next, we have Joel Silberman from Indegy. So let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Joel from Indegy, and I'm pleased to be able to spend a few minutes talking to you about Indegy and industrial cybersecurity. So what is industrial cybersecurity? Industrial cybersecurity is typically the protection and monitoring of industrial networks, networks that are made up of valves, controllers, robots, all the things that cannot be protected and secured using traditional IT techniques. If you try to put an antivirus or you try to scan one of these very low latency purpose-built networks, you'll shut them down. And there's been lots of examples of that in the past. So companies like Indegy were formed to solve the challenges associated with these industrial networks. So Indegy is only about industrial cybersecurity technologies. We are about 65 people. We just closed a Series B round of $18 million. We've raised close to 30, so we're a lot larger than some of the other plug-and-play companies. We're here to meet with a lot of the corporates to either partner from a services perspective or secure their industrial networks. Company's based in New York with the R&D facility set up in Tel Aviv, Israel. So what are the types of attacks that people think about from an industrial cybersecurity perspective? The most common, the one that's in the press, the one that gets all the attention, are cyber attacks from external threats. These are nation-state type of attacks. This is a bad country trying to take down a nuclear power plant. This is somebody trying to open water valves to flood a town. Certainly these are problems that people need to worry about. It's governments that worry about these things, but they're not attacks that happen every day. The middle bucket, malicious insiders, insider threats. Think about these attacks as you've got inside your OT network. Often there's Windows 7 type machines. There's very old legacy systems, and these systems are not patched. They don't have passwords. They're wide open. And despite people thinking that industrial networks are always air-gapped, which they're not, often some of these old legacy systems are connected to the internet or a mail server. So it's been in the press probably every other week about somebody getting ransomware, WannaCry attack from one of these old Windows 7 machines being open and compromising a system. The last type of attack different in this space is insider threat, negligent use. So you don't intend to do a cyber attack, but you go to update a PLC or a device and you make a mistake. You load the wrong file, and therefore the whole production line shuts down. And in these systems, there's no way to track that or recover quickly. Thought I'd take a second to talk about a use case that might mean something more to you guys. Building management systems. They're made up of think of a data center relying on air conditioning. If somebody figures out a hack into the air conditioning, an industrial system, shut down the air conditioning, the whole data center goes bye-bye. And so you can't use antivirus or traditional methods to protect those devices, and systems like Indegy can protect building management systems. So what is Indegy? It's an appliance, sits inside the industrial network, and does the common things that your IT security does. It tracks all the assets, so it gives you a clear picture of all the devices that are inside the network. Sounds simple, much harder when you think about all the small devices that are spread out across a manufacturing floor, or all the thermostats or all the other devices that might be inside your data center. Then it provides configuration control, so it takes a snapshot of how everything is set up, so that if somebody makes a change that you didn't expect, it's very easy to recover because you can roll back to the configuration that works before. And then it does all the cool security stuff, right? It does behavior analysis, threat detection. It looks for those malicious activities, rogue devices that are communicating that shouldn't be communicating inside the network. What's unique about Indegy, I need all day to talk about it, but think about the IP as being most of the systems in industrial control systems listen on the wire, and that's how they understand what's happening. So it's gathering data like an IDS system. What Indegy does is we have found a way through our patents and our engineering efforts to ask questions of the devices, so we can query the devices and pull the information out. So information that doesn't go over the wire, the details of the configuration are the kinds of things that Indegy pulls to set up our alerts. A lot of people don't know where to get started in the OT space. We offer a risk assessment, so if you are not sure what to do or you're not sure if you've had a problem, this is a one-day, couple-hour exercise. We can plug in Indegy. It'll pull out or create a report automatically. It'll show all the devices. It'll show you if things are communicating where they shouldn't be. It'll find devices that you might not know what to do with. So if your teams are unsure what to do, this is a great way to get started. And then lastly, I'd just like to leave you with the thought that in industrial, there's the security side, the threat detection, the vulnerability side, but there's also the operations side. If somebody makes a change and shuts down the network, it's not necessarily a security breach, but it has the same impact because you can no longer build the things you wanted to build. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joel. Up next, we have Shlomi from CyberReady. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shlomi Jian. I'm here to tell you a little bit about CyberReady. We're a vendor of anti-phishing learning platform. And you all heard about phishing. 85% of attacks are starting with a bad email. You all heard about Verizon, Yahoo, Netflix recently. This problem is not going away. Actually, there are two types of solutions. Lots of respectful companies out there trying to prevent emails from even getting to your inbox. Unfortunately, there's always something that will go through. We're talking about high volume. 2%, 1% means high risk. There's another set of solutions that's more toward changing behavior of employees. We're talking about presentations. We're talking about quarterly meetings. We're talking about CBT, computer based training. Problem with those is that it requires some people to do it. It's pretty expensive, like many other security products. Without configuration, without managing, configuring these products, you're not going to get the desired results. What we're seeing is low utilization, low ROI. What CyberReady does, we want to offer human readiness in a click. We offer basically a SaaS, fully managed solution, automatically, continuously, and adaptively training your employees. What I mean by that is pretty simple. This guy is able to stop a penalty kick because he's been training every day on the field with a ball that will meet him during the match. Organization, we believe, could win constantly if they train their employees on an ongoing basis and not just once a quarter with some type of conference. In order to do that, it's not easy. We want to empower them with a solution, cutting-edge solution that allows them to test and train their employees on an ongoing basis at a personal level. So not everybody's going to get the same email. People are going to get the emails in their own language. If you're in the finance team, you're going to get an email that is designed for the finance department, and we do it all automatically. These are some of the examples. Real data, real customers. We start with large group of people that are called serial clickers. Those are high-risk individuals. They are tending to click on malicious emails, and this group is, yeah, that's you. This group is going down. You also see something really interesting here. I hope you can see it from a distance. MTBF, mean time between failures. People are showing that after 6 training, they're clicking less. I mean, the average failures between clicks is actually going up. These are the high bars out there. So just last 2 slides. We are a small company out of Tel Aviv, only 6 people. We're simulating, we're attacking our users, quote unquote, in 66 countries, 35 languages. We are cross-industry, smallest customer, 300 employees, largest customer, 50,000 employees. We offer, on average, 60 simulation a year. If you think about it, 60 simulation, different languages, you cannot do it manually unless you have 2 people full-time just writing those emails. So that's what we're offering. From a business point of view, we reached a point where we're actually at 1K MRR, close Q3 with $330,000. We're going to end the year with cash positive. We're only 6. We were able to accomplish this with 1 sales guy. And we raised $250K seed. What we're looking at now is to raise A in January. We're also starting to sell in the US, so we didn't sell in the US yet, and that's mostly me, and we're looking for partnerships. So if you have any interest in completing your portfolio, if you have any interest in chipping in, great opportunity right there. Thank you.
If you have any kids coming out of college that need jobs. Sorry, trying to break the ice a little bit. Up next, we have Cody Cornell from Swim Lane. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Hi, everyone. Cody Cornell, co-founder and CEO at Swim Lane. You know, we're talking a lot about cybersecurity. We spend about $80 billion a year on cybersecurity threat detection, threat monitoring. We generate hundreds of millions of alarms a day, and all of those alarms go to people where we have job vacancies in the millions, and that's really a struggle for our industry. Lack of talent, lack of available folks, too many point solutions, and really too many alarms to manage. So, you know, this is a trend that we're seeing with a lot of the customers that we talk to, increasing surface area, containerization, virtualization, cloud, mobile. These are all driving the surface area and the number of monitoring tools that are inside of our environments that are generating alarms that are going unmanaged. Breach after breach, it's a very common theme for organizations to not really respond properly. They're able to detect, but not actually able to properly respond to the alarms that are being generated by that $80 billion investment. Swim Lane is a security orchestration, automation, and response product. I didn't name the category. That's Gartner. Generally referred to as a SOAR product. Basically, what we do is model the work that an organization or that an analyst would do when we receive an alarm, a vulnerability scan, an IOC, whatever it might be. So think about all the steps that an analyst has to go through for every single alarm that they receive. A single phishing alarm, as was just mentioned, would take 15 to 20 minutes to actually triage manually. So that process, multiplied by the thousands that are received a day, is really an untenable mechanism for responding to alarms. Swim Lane is basically a platform that has a reporting and dashboarding, case management, workflow, and orchestration capability, which allows us to integrate point solutions together to make sure that we're having the most effective defense in depth capability, as well as making sure that organizations are responding as fast as possible, no matter if somebody's actually watching the glass at any given moment. We have integrations with over 150 different technologies. Most of the products you would see in the Magic Quadrant leaders category of almost every category, from identity and access management to SIEM to threat intelligence to vulnerability management. We have go-to-market partnerships with Palo Alto and McAfee and a number of other tier 1 vendors. Right now, we're actually running in the SOC at McAfee. So McAfee has access to obviously any technology that's out there. Their SOC in Plano, Texas, as well as Cork, Ireland, are running Swim Lane as their primary tool for triaging security alarms. Really, I wanted to kind of keep it brief, talk really about what the problem set is, but as you continue to think about how organizations have to deal with the fact that they have to become much more proactive, much more efficient, and deal with many more alarms on a given day, that they need a capability to automate a lot of the work that they would replace individual staff members, really not displacing people, but augmenting them, enabling them to get a lot more done with a lot less people. So I'll give you everybody, if there's any questions, feel free to catch me outside of the room here, but appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Cody. Up next, we have Nathan Paul with Black Sands. Let's give him a warm welcome.
The digital future is upon us, and what it means is that almost everything is going to connect into your environment. This is an immense, immense problem. It has great opportunity and great problem. It's extremely difficult, expensive, and risky to allow these connections in. And it's an exponentially growing stress in your environments today. So in the enterprise, we think about deploying, we think about the management, we think about the security, and we think about auditing every single one of the connections that are coming into our environments. We have to move away from a personnel-based model to something that is technology-based. You need a platform that can scale and secure the connections without increasing personnel, and that's what Black Sands does. Let me give you an example here in the banking systems. The banks today have vendors that pretty much service everything from ATMs to HVAC systems. They can either do a truck roll-up where they're plugging directly into the network, or they can find some sort of other remote access in. Either way, that's very, very difficult to do today. There are 80,000 bank branches in the United States alone. The cost to provide connectivity to them is about $2 billion a year. This is just called the cost of doing business today. And as we provide connectivity across our industries, without fail, the different companies tell us that they provide too much access, far too much access, more than they wanted to. And so there's huge amounts of cost and huge risk. Black Sands can reduce the cost by upwards of 90% and reduce the risk down to its absolute minimum. The way we do this is with Secure Connection as a Service. We have a software edge device called the receiver. It's actually invisible. We have a cloud management system that actually does the brokering of each connection, and we provide certificates on the edge points coming in. And this could be either a device like a handheld, or it could be an application. In this case, the vendor, will call him Fred. He needs to get access to a money machine in a particular bank branch. He first connects to Black Sands. We identify Fred. We make sure he is who he says he is. And once we have absolutely made sure we know who he is, we also know what he needs to access. We actually broker a point-to-point encrypted connection from Fred's PC here, device-specific, all the way to the one device or service or application in the back end that he has access to. And we do this without touching your data. Point-to-point encrypted connections without touching your data. This is really, really important. The deployment of our system is very smooth and very fast. It's remarkably fast. It takes 2 to 3 months often. With other systems, we can do it in minutes. The management is simple. You do not have to be an IT specialist to deploy, to manage, or to use our system. The security is unparalleled. The edge device, the receiver we called it there, is actually invisible. State-sponsored hackers see it as invisible. When they try to scan it, begin an assault on it or anything, nothing comes back to them. It looks like it's unplugged. They can't even begin that. And every connection is dynamically created, encrypted, and point-to-point. And finally, we tell the full story, the full audit story. Who is connected, when they're connected, what they're connected to, and where that connection originates. And we do this in near real time. Forensics teams takes months to do what we do in milliseconds. We're able to reduce cost, reduce risk, increase productivity, and reliability across your architecture. This vendor story is one of the many use cases. We can do mergers and acquisitions, a huge value there, your employees, and now our API moves us into the mobility marketplace as well as the other software marketplaces. Digital transformation is upon us. It requires both speed and security. That's what Black Sands brings to you as you scale. We're in manufacturing, critical infrastructure, and fintech. Our largest customer is a Fortune 15 company that's using our technology to do remote management of power plants around the world. So how are you going to manage the exponentially growing connections in your industry today or in your company? You need a platform like Black Sands. Look forward to talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Up next, we have Eran Mitrani from Analybit. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Hello, I'm Eran from Anonybit, one of the co-founders. Basically, Anonybit builds a distributed peer-to-peer biometric data network that allows the users to control their own biometric data and identity. Currently, the way biometric data is stored is one of two options. One is on the devices, like storing the fingerprints or Face ID, and the other one is in the cloud. Both options have a lot of security issues, and the cloud option also have regulatory issues with the GDPR. What we do is we build an architecture which is based on a peer-to-peer distributed network. We take, on enrollment, we take the picture of the user and we run it through a neural network. That neural network breaks the image into parts, and those parts are distributed over the peer-to-peer network. So when we try to authenticate a user, basically we just have to take another picture and run it through the network again, and then send those parts to the different nodes. So the biometric data is never stored in one piece in any one place. That allows to basically keep the data secure. Along with the data, along with the biometric data, we can keep other kinds of data. The first use case that we see is storing crypto keys along with the biometric data. So basically, we take the crypto key, we break it into multiple parts, and we store it along with the biometric data. When we want to sign a transaction, a crypto transaction, we can do that without restoring the key into one place. That allows us to keep the key very secure and prevent it from getting lost. Other use cases are connecting crypto with banking, where we can have a trail of, based on the identity of the user, of past transactions, and that will help basically banks in KYC, AML, and such. Other use cases include fintech, open banking, and so on. Yeah, those are the go-to-market business model based on a subscription-based. So the vendors will basically pay a subscription for each user and will incentivize the user to become nodes in that network using a token model. Yeah, that's about it. We're currently raising a seed fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ron. Okay, so that concludes the cybersecurity portion of today. Before you get out of your seats, I'd like you to take a look at your name tag, the event brochure, the bit.ly link. Go to that link, and that is where you will vote for your favorite startup. At the end of a quick video that we show, we will present the startup that won the most votes with an award, and then we will go out and mingle and hopefully drink some alcohol. All right. Thanks, guys.
Cybersecurity is a very fast-changing landscape, and the startups have a lot of new ideas and innovations going on. So without this kind of forum, it's really hard for the large companies to even know about the different technologies that are being innovated out there.
Moving into the plug-and-play environment and looking at innovation in cybersecurity is going to give us a leg up on how to protect our systems with the growing complexities of interconnected systems moving forward.
Plug and Play has an amazing ecosystem where we get startups from different verticals, and at the same time we get to interact with different corporate partners from our own industry as well as different industries, so our thinking keeps on growing.
Plug and Play has a good focus on being the glue between startups and corporations, and I think that's very unique compared to any other accelerator.
It's like Disneyland to me. In fact, this is our third batch, and it's been very successful. We got a lot of deal flows, we got to meet a lot of partners that would be really hard for us to get connected to, so I love Plug and Play.
Using the Plug and Play platform just brings in companies all over the world, from Tel Aviv to all over Germany, etc. So that global footprint and bringing the best and the brightest into the platform is really what excited us at RSM.
It's great to be one of the first few partners with Plug and Play. We've been involved with the fintech space, and getting involved with cyber security is just a natural for us in our business and our cyber risk practice.
Okay. Laura, do you have our gift? The winner of the startup voting period is Black Sands. Let's put it together for Nathan Paul. Good job. We're going to take a photo.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Take care. Well, thank you everyone for being here. It's been a fantastic event. We really appreciate your participation. Going forward, we're continuing to grow this cybersecurity program alongside our fintech group. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to a few people, Laura, Pierre, Tessa, the AV team, partners in particular. Thank you all very much for being here. Everyone who supported on the Ventures team, thank you very much. Let's go have some fun.